Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're in. Welcome to the Venture Outfitter Weekly. I am in the Rogue trailer. I call this trailer Moonraker. So I'm off-site from our normal broadcast studio, but excited to be here with you today. We've got a good session today that's going to be a little bit of, I've been really philosophical with the events of the last few weeks. So there's going to be a little philosophy, but then we're going to hear from the community, just reporting in from the community. And so if you have something to say about your startup later today, I will have space for you to talk about it. Obviously, what we're going to ask is that you give your short elevator pitch, not the 5-minute one, the 1-minute one, and then make a request to the community. That will be the format that we'll follow. There's space for a lot of you to be able to do so. I always love these type of sessions the best because we get to hear from the community. And if you're on if you're watching this on one of the sites where we're streaming to, and you want to say something, I typically try to pay attention to what's happening there as well. And so I'd like to hear from you. I tell you what, welcome to the Venture Outfitter. The whole idea about this is a program for enabling entrepreneurs to move their businesses forward. And a lot of times, what we're going to talk a lot about today is sometimes it's the internal game. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Thank you to our sponsor. Today's sponsor is an organization called Chihuahua Global. This is the organization that's responsible for supporting the state of Chihuahua, which is the largest state in Mexico out of the 34 states there. The whole idea about Chihuahua Global is Chihuahua is a really interesting state. They have some of the most productive plants in Mexico. They also have some really interesting technologies, and we've heard from some of the different companies there and startups that have, breakaway type of technology. For those of y'all that don't know my history with Mexico, one of the reasons I'm so, bullish about Mexico is I've been doing business in Mexico for about 30 years. I've spoken in 23 different cities in Mexico. One of the things I like about Chihuahua is you can walk the streets of Chihuahua and, if you cross a street in Austin, you might get hit. In Chihuahua, you can actually be much more comfortable just getting around and stuff like that. I'll tell you more about Chihuahua in the future, but thank you for them sponsoring today's program. So what's coming soon? We're kicking off venture bridges to Austria, to Japan, and Chihuahua, like I mentioned. The Japan JETRO, that stands for the Japan Trade Organization, the Global Acceleration Program that we're doing. This is the second year that we're working with them. The Austrians will be kicking off with in October is when the 4 teams will land in Austin, but there's a lot of activities before then. And then with Chihuahua and other parts of the world, we'll have a lot more activity happening soon about that. I know we have a number of people that have logged in online. And if you're not in our community and you want to find out more about what's happening with these different groups, or if you have another area of the world, or even in Austin, Texas, that you want to get involved in, the thing to do is to go to techranch.com/connect and get onto our community. Getting involved in the community is free. Watching the broadcast, interacting with us here is free. It's a great way to get started. If you're considering U.S. market entry, and we now have companies that are leveraging TechRanch to go to Mexico market entry, we've had each one of these bridges goes both directions. So a lot of what happens with this is you'll see activities happening. A bridge should go both ways. A lot of times when Americans say, hey, we're building a bridge, you come to me. I like making fun of that because the truth is that, in my career, as an example, my first $250,000 customer was a bank in Mexico. And a really advanced piece of technology, and I was able to get my first, start with that other company, that other country. That's why you might think, oh, this is cute that TechRanch is doing business with these different countries, but the truth is that business goes both directions. And since we have a multiplicity of different countries, We actually have right now, Japanese companies are doing business in Mexico because of the connections through us. We had a Hungarian company that came through Texas to Mexico as well, as an example. And so a lot of the bridges, even though the metaphor for bridge is point to point, there's a lot more activity than you might see. These haven't been updated just yet on the website, but we have 3 solid programs coming very soon. Royce Johnson, who has been a long-term tech rancher, a PhD researcher, is going to tell you more about what your customers really want. And he's got an interesting book out that he shared with us years and years ago. Mega long story short, this is going to be great for those of you that have engineering backgrounds and really want to figure out how to quickly get involved with customers much faster than you might have before. He's got a process he's going to take us through. That's on July 6th. On July 13th, we're going to have an AI expert talk more about AI, how to integrate AI into your companies. This could be very interesting because if you're not looking at AI, I think a lot of us have gotten the wake-up call and said, how is this going to affect us? And then on July 20th, Joe Lamont is going to be talking about strengthening your fundraising possibilities. Now, Joe has actually been involved in a lot of different family offices across the U.S. What is a family office? This is like, where an angel investor, if he or she has a lot of money, typically opens up what's called a family office. And so Joe has been studying about the patterns of getting funding. He's also got a company called AngelSpan. What AngelSpan does is AngelSpan helps you communicate with your investors in a way that those of us that haven't been trained in doing that need to learn. There's also some data that he's going to share with you about how certain investors can take advantage of some of the U.S. laws that they might think of. Instead of applying their monies towards charity, they actually can leverage some of the other vehicles that Joe will talk about. And should be a really interesting session. I learn every time I've hung out with Joe, just because he's got such a solid historical background in investment and helping shape investment decisions across the United States and across the world, especially lots of different family offices in the US. So those should be 3 solid programs for you to help you drive your business. Take advantage of this. Of course, if you have specific ideas that you'd like to see, we're always open to new ideas, and you can always send a suggestion just into info@techranchaustin.com or info@techranch. Send them in and just say, hey, this is the type of stuff that I'd like to see. Or if you have something you'd like to present, we will receive ideas from the community, because a lot of times we really want to cater to your interest. So that's what that was. That's all I have to say about that. August is going to be interesting because as we kick off August, I'll be in Chile the first week in August. I'll be in Argentina the second week in August, and I'll be talking about activities happening there. Many of you might know that 20 years ago, when I started this whole process of working with entrepreneurs, the activities were in Chile, and we're going to hear an update about how some of the seeds that got planted 20 years ago have, totally shifted that country. And then in the trip to Mendoza, Argentina will be, how is it you can plug into different things there as well. So looking forward to these coming programs. So this is my great grandfather, Otto C. Koym, and I have really, because of the tragedy that happened, and I won't go into the tragedy that happened, I've been really in an introspective mood about, like, really reflective about all the different things that are happening and stuff like that. And I started thinking about, so I didn't have a relationship with my great grandfather. He passed many years before I was born. But I started thinking about more generally about the perspective of, as we're going through this massive shift in technology, what does it mean? What does it mean to look back to history and understand the shifts that have happened? The main challenge that I want to actually put out there is, I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we don't stop for a moment and consider the historical shifts that we're going through. That sometimes just looking back to our family, like as an example, this person and his father as I look at this line of people who, migrated from Germany, landed in Galveston, went through some really rough times, and produced the opportunity for me to be here today. So what's the whole point of this? The whole point of this slide is to say that I think that if you haven't stopped for a moment and just considered what is it that actually took for you to be here today, and the struggles as we look at, what does it mean about what, with the war going on, with AI changing everything, with their massive shifts in trade relationships, all this uncertainty. What does this all mean? I think looking back to our own family history is an important guide. And so I just want to point to that. And in some future interactions, I'll tell you more about what I'm getting out of that process. Today, I'm going to be at the Austin Startup Ecosystem Summit. Excited about this. If you haven't, it's great to see that Austin is recovering finally. Events like this kind of say, hey, we're finally starting to really get together as a community again. So I'll be there later today. If you have a chance and you're at the Ecosystem Summit today, do a shout out. I have plans later in the evening, so I'm not going to be sticking around for a long time. One of my closest friends in the whole wide world's flying in, and so I'll be like hanging out with him later today. But if you're at the summit and we haven't met before, or actually for those of y'all that I just missed getting to see here in Austin, join us and make sure you say hi. I'd like to do that. It'll be at the UT campus. And details you can see here on the screen are just look for the Eventbrite online. Same thing. Next week is the 4th of July. Okay, for the many of you that are outside of the US, you're like, hey, 4th of July, who cares? Because, that's the United States. The main thing I actually wanted to put this on is to say, separate of it being about the United States, what is your own statement of independence? I'd like to hear that in the community area. One of the things that I think would be very valuable for us to talk about. Many of us took up the mantle of entrepreneurship because we wanted to be free, right? We wanted our control over financial freedom. Many of you actually that I see that are in the studio audience, and I know that we have a lot of people watching online too. We have more people watching on the streams. You come from countries where you didn't have a choice. You couldn't go get a job. But the thing that I'm actually pointing to by talking about Independence Day is I think it's one of the things that I'd like to see return to the online community and interactions that are happening around Tech Ranch is kind of more of this philosophical bent. And I've obviously, like I mentioned a few slides ago, I'm in that philosophical bent of what is independence to you? What is freedom to you? Even if you're not in the United States. A lot of times, historically, when we had the discussions on the previous server for our community, we actually had a lot of those kind of discussions every once in a while come apart, pop in. I think it's really valuable to have those type of discussions because as entrepreneurs, since we're like sometimes going through some of the roughest moments of building businesses, I think it's important to consider that. And it's not, yes, I'm a proud American, but I don't really mean this about the United States. I mean it more about your personal independence and what is it taking to get there. Next thing, on July 11th, the community case, our friends at Blue Sky Partners are leading a discussion along with the city of Austin about how to build capacity around helping our homeless in the Austin area. There's a homeless issue that's happened with the downturn across the United States in a way that people that don't live in the United States would be surprised to see. We got to do something about it. I'm not necessarily saying, hey, let's just go raise more taxes, because I think a lot of times government doesn't necessarily know how to run programs in the same way that you guys do. That is, startups are really efficient about how we take things on. Blue Sky is one of the things I like about our, them as partners out there. Nate and his group is they're using the accelerator model to take on some of these issues. And so I will be at this event in support of that. We've got to do something about helping the homeless. Whether you're on one side of the political spectrum or another side, the truth is that to act like you don't have a position to take action is not entrepreneurial thinking. And let's be clear, I don't think the answer is just let's go spend more money. I actually think that we need to get much more efficient, and we'll talk about that. But if you're interested, this will be listed on our Tech Ranch website. I don't know if it's gotten posted there yet, but the QR code posts into the event. And so certainly you can actually do that. And I will be at that event. I will plan on lingering that evening as well after the event, specifically to look at other things that are happening. And there is a mental health initiative, and there's a mental health channel. These are for mental health technologies that are we're working around the Tech Ranch around the world. I mentioned last week that I am one of the founding members of an initiative out of Europe called the Digital Mental Health Alliance, that's based at actually the other two founding members are two of the original founders that actually invited me to be a part of it. One of them's in Slovakia, the other one's in Germany. But more generally, we're working on mental health initiatives between St. Edward's and a bunch of different parties around the world about how to promote these type of technologies. Historically, they've been ignored. They've been underfunded. And so we've collected a group of investors that are interested in this area. We've collected a group of technologies. We're now getting some heft and getting some universities behind it. If you're interested, the place to go to is the Mental Health Channel. There's also a personal development channel that is more about, if you want to talk about, your own personal development, your own personal mental health. One of the professors at Stanford says that entrepreneurs typically 60% of the time have some underlying mental health issue. Hey, that's interesting to talk about. We talk about that sort of stuff in the personal development channel on the community. This channel is specifically about how is it we can actually help promote mental health technologies. And there's a bunch of different activities that are happening. Now, the Texas GHS, that stands for the Texas Global Health Security Initiative. Why that's on there is to remind me to tell you that when the initiative was started by University of Texas and Tech Ranch and other organizations, what happened around that was there was all this activity focused on the virus, but not that much activity focused on mental health. And I think there was this mental health crisis that happened around the world. I started a committee, and the Mental Health Special Interest Group is part of that group. We got 33 different volunteer members of that. So there's some real heft here now between this organization that's based out of Europe and the historical stuff we've done here. If you want more information and if you're interested, this is more of a call out to say, I want to combine forces by getting more people involved, because there is going to be some movement going forward on this, in this activity. We're actively looking for mentors. I mentioned that we have the bridges that are about to kick off. And the truth is that historically, Tech Ranch had a very vibrant, but very intense type of mentorship program. And the way we deal with mentors is this is not just anybody can call themselves a mentor. Part of what we want to do is we want to cultivate, since many of you know that I have a Japanese martial arts background, studied Aikido for 25 years. This whole idea of a senpai-kohai relationship, that is, the senpai is the person has a little bit more experience than the kohai. Now, the whole idea behind this is to have a group of mentors that have been trained through a Tech Ranch process. We're not looking for like the largest list of mentors. We're looking for the people that are really ready to be a part to, like, I say it this way: you have scar tissue you want to donate to your fellow entrepreneur. That's the whole idea here. And so if you're interested, please let us know. And the way to let us know is go to techranch.com/connect. And on there's a mentor form, or you can go to the QR code that you see on the screen. So let's do this. I'm going to take a deep breath of air. I haven't looked at the LinkedIn streams. Sometimes you guys are sending me messages there. and I haven't looked over there yet. So I'm going to stop for a second and actually make sure that I bring that up on the screen. So if there's anything at all that if you're watching one of the streams and you want to do a shout out, I will do my best. And actually, Jello and I both, Jello is the guy who's running production behind the scenes. We try to pay attention to what's happening there. Part of what we've been looking at is, yes, we do publish this as a podcast, but the truth is the number one thing that Tech Ranch has is this community, this vibrant community. We used to do it at the co-working place that I started in Austin, but really we wanted to go to this country place, and we've had up to 15 countries represented. So part of the idea is to try to do this live and interact as much as possible. So do a shout out there if you get a chance. I'd love to interact with you if you're watching one of the streams or otherwise. All right, so quick thoughts. James Cameron, one of the most successful movie directors in the world. I didn't know this. Someone told me a story that said he started as a truck driver. And what's interesting about him is this truck driver wanted to get into the movie making business, didn't have the money to go to school, but what he did was he went to the University of South California and he started getting all the PhD and master's theses and dissertations. And he just started reading them. He said, for $120, I could make photocopies of all these different things and learn about them. And here he is. He's directed 3 of the 4 top highest grossing movies of all time. There's a couple of different things that we can learn out of this. Actually, I have 3 things. The first one is to follow your bliss. Even though James was stuck, he was stuck driving a truck. He figured out a way that he could start following his bliss. And the way that is he said, I want to learn about the movie business. I really want to be a director. He went to the library because he couldn't afford school. And part of the idea about that was he ended up just reading these free reports, right? There are theses and dissertations that are out there. And that's one of the things that was there. Let me do a shout out real quick. Ian just asked, you missed the QR code. If you could, Jello, if you'll respond back to the chat so that and share that URL, that would be great. So back to James. He said he was following his bliss. Now, follow your bliss. This is a Joseph Campbell quote that says, follow your bliss and doors will open for you that you never could have imagined there's a door and there's not anyone else that would have that door. Same thing. For $120, he got access to all this different material. And what was the 120? He would go into the libraries, he'd make photocopies, and he said that he spent about $120 on that. Follow your bliss. The second one is when he wanted to, he finally decided it was time to stop reading and to start making things happen. And it's like, he made his first movie and it's like, I was being a doctor doing an appendectomy after only reading about it. And so the second thing is you got to do the real thing. Many of you are, as entrepreneurs, you've heard me say this, that anything worth doing is worth effing up. I won't say it like, since we're recording this, I won't say anything worth doing is worth screwing up. You got to do the real thing. And, he talked about that. He talks about in one of his papers about how hard it was to switch gears and, like the fear of, oh, wait, here I've learned all this stuff, but I got to put it into practice. And so do the real thing. And then the third thing that in this reflection that was shared with me is this quote from Leonardo da Vinci. It says, for those of y'all that can't see the slide, I'll say that I'll read it to you. Those who are in love with practice without theoretical knowledge are like the sailor who goes on a ship without a rudder or compass and who never can be certain whether he is going. The whole idea about this is, especially in the way that I like to approach this whole idea of the practice of entrepreneurship, you need to have theory and you need to have practice. You need to be doing it, not just thinking about it, but you have to have the theory. There's this mix between the two. You can't just do thinking. You can't just, take action. You have to have both. And the way that, James had actually said this is become a disciple of both experience and received wisdom. And this whole idea about received wisdom, part of the thing I like about the words that were used the biography of James Cameron was this idea about how that received wisdom is, it goes beyond what you know. So part of the thing that I want to make sure that we're doing, when I read this background and kind of the way the person who shared it with me actually was talking about it, it reminded me of some activities, especially since I've been in such a self-reflective mode after Abby's passing, and it just reminded me about how we need to remember as entrepreneurs that we have 4 different boxes that we have to check. We have to know why. What are our motivations for what we're up to? What's inside of your heart? What is your bliss? What are you following? Why are you doing what you're doing? The second thing is the mechanics. You have to know the how to. If you do not know revenue minus cost equals profit, even as hard as you might work, it doesn't really matter. You got to know the theory. You got to know that. And so part of the thing about it is to be paying attention to the theory. And if you don't know the theory, you don't know what the theory is, take advantage of the community site. You can say, hey guys, what should I be studying about, when whatever the area of your business that you recognize you have a hole in. The third part is culture. Why do I say culture? One of the reasons that I focus so much on the Austin model of entrepreneurship is, and why did I abandon Silicon Valley and come back to Austin, working for that Steve Jobs startup and coming back to Austin? Why did I come back? Is because, I wanted to help you. You wanted to help me. It's like the hippie musicians that settled Austin, Janis Joplin, Willie Nelson, they cared about each other. We need to constantly create this culture of mutual support. And then structure, we have to have buildings, we have to have contracts, we have to have legal systems, we have to have ways of building our relationships and supporting them back and forth. I'm going to go back to this model. This is a model that I designed. It's based on other people's work. I pulled a lot of different pieces together, but then focused it around entrepreneurship. Some of you might even recognize some of the historical underpinnings of this. This is from, in fact, this set of slides is from a speech that I gave at a keynote in Vilnius, Lithuania in 2018. But the model is something I developed a decade before that. And I think it's important to start coming back to it because a lot of times on this perspective, especially in the United States, we typically focus on mechanics. What's the MBA, know how to do stuff? And we focus on the structures. We got a beautiful building. Look at that beautiful building. But if you don't have the stuff on the left, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at all. You're not going to be as effective as you could be. Because this reminded me of one of the slides that I brought up. This is Laura. Laura is now in Florence, Italy, one of our entrepreneurs that started out at Tech Ranch, went through one of our campfire programs, ended up doing some follow-up stuff. If you want to hear her story, the napkin that she has is what she wrote down just at this in this one place where she said, hey, this is my breakthrough for the set of things that led her to take the massive leap and follow her bliss into going to Florence and living the life. Like, it's just amazing. Last time I actually ran into her, I was in Italy, and I was just I got to connect with her for a little bit about what she was actually up to. Pretty amazing. We've had a number of different people that have had this type of experience, and this whole thing that's been happening reminds me, this is why I started Tech Ranch, and I really want to start bringing back this it's the inner game as much as it is the outer game. We got to focus on that and bring that back as the US reboots and the world reboots, and we've got all these different issues that are happening. It's really important. And without this being too much of a commercial, as part of this, the program that Laura went through, and a number of you have, I haven't talked about in a long time, because we've been so focused on US market entry. And right now, the predominance of what's happening are these venture bridges and US market entry. And those are Tech Ranch programs. Under the Kevin Koym brand, under my brand versus the Tech Ranch brand, we are, I'm going to be taking on a set of breakthrough entrepreneurs, people who really truly want to break through to the next level. This is not a normal Tech Ranch program. This is something that, because it's much more about the inner game. It's about achieving to the next level. I'm going to take on 6 entrepreneurs for 3 months. And this is a life-changing program. It's, if you're interested in this, I've charged a lot more for this sort of stuff in the past. I've charged $6,000 per team member or per group in the past. I'm going to, because I miss doing this sort of stuff, I'm going to do it half that for $3,000. I'll have one of the slots be a scholarship position where the person, it will be scholarshiped in. If you're interested in this, this is the sort of stuff that I like to know. This is kind of close to my heart. This is me following my bliss by even bringing it up. It will have daily interactions. I'll say it again, because, daily interactions for 3 months to have you break through. If you're interested in this, whether it's as one of the scholarship people or one of the other slots, the thing to do is to send me a note, Kevin@techranchaustin.com, or Kevin@techranch.com works as well. Just let me know. And I'm bringing this back because I miss doing this type of work with you guys. And so, yes, our other programs at Tech Ranch are really valuable because, you got to know rocks are hard and water is wet. And, how do you do market entry using activities like, how do you do market entry type of, stuff? How do you close customers when you're actually working with a new product? I love that stuff too. This is the inner game. This is the left side of that previous slide that I shared. So if you're interested, let me know. All right, I have talked a lot. Now it's time to hear from you guys. Reporting in from the community. I know that these are always some of my funnest moments when you guys actually tell me what the hell is going on with your startups. And the format that works the best, and anyone that's in the studio audience can do this. And if I see anyone that's on the streams, and for whatever reason the stream hasn't refreshed yet, but we'll figure this out. For anyone that's in the community that would like to actually say this is really not supposed to, it's not supposed to be a commercial as much as is, you can make a request saying, hey, I'm looking for customers. This is what I'm up to, but be targeted. Don't ramble on, less is more. And then what you'll have an opportunity is for following up is there will be a place on the community site where you're going to be able to follow up. And, Jello will post this Venture Outfitter Weekly on there. And then anyone that wants to have follow up, you just have to put your information in the chat, and then he'll post it onto that site so people can follow up with you really quickly. So the black slide is my reminder to stop talking and actually look at the screen and see who here wants to go. I know that if nothing else, Christia promised me a poem, and so we're going to definitely have her. I know that that we also have Denise is in the audience. She asked for a slot to pitch really quick. Denise, if you're ready to go, let's give me a thumbs up and we'll go ahead. Okay, perfect. We'll put you on first, Denise, and then we'll go from there. And Denise, what are you up to? Tell us all about it.
Okay, let me tell you about a 5th grader who had a suicide plan. Today's children do not have the tools they need to manage today's complex world. Fort hears silent screams, triages trauma, invades chaos. What if Tech Ranch has access to paid interns who could help move this initiative forward? How might other entrepreneurs access Tech Ranch interns and connect them to accelerate their own mission? And how might this look?
That's beautiful. So yeah, there's an initiative to getting interns out there. And obviously, one of the things that Denise is working on is really important because kids these days are having a lot of difficulties. Denise, is there anything specific for you specifically that you'd like to make sure for your business will drive things forward?
I would like to have help figuring out how to know what everybody else is doing. And because I do have access to universities in the education part as a retired educator. So I'd like to know, like a quick, I'd like to have some vehicle that had a quick description in one spot that's Tech Ranch related, that I could just go to Tech Ranch and say, okay, I found this kid that is looking at this. He's going to this school. His professor got to me. I want to be able to connect them. So it's
How
like
about,
finding, yeah, student teachers or something.
I would love to have you do that. Lead that conversation in the Ed Tech channel, if nothing else. Should I post it
Right.
into the Tech channel? And then the other Ed Tech, if anyone can participate in the Ed Tech channel, by the way, if you want to, Denise will do a shout out. She'll post it into there. Get
Okay.
into the channel, and that would be great.
Yeah.
Because that's important. I mean, you're working on Denise's background. She's been an administrator at schools and a psychologist for schools for a very long time. She's got a number of decades behind it, and so the experience that she's pointing to is really important. So rally around Denise, and thank you, Denise, for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, and it actually crosses, into the medical field, the tech ed especially field, because everybody's trying to figure out how to teach it. And we don't have the masters. It's like the mentors that you're looking for. That's what I'm looking for too. People that can mentor or help those that are trying to figure it out. Yeah, thanks.
That sounds great. Thank you, Denise, and keep the good work up. Let's see. There's a switching. Kim Johnson, you mentioned that you would give us a report in that I think you said that you just landed a new grant. I think you said in the preview of the program today, you said the dog caught the car. Tell us what's been happening with the work that you're up to.
So people have been most familiar with, and our work continues under the program neowithdrawal.com. We continue our work with training hospitals and developing products to support moms and babies that are affected by opioid addictions. I would highly commend to you the tragic article in the New York Times that they followed doctor's orders and they took their babies away. We have future plans to go into transitional care, but basically it's a case where moms who had been on medication for opioid use disorder were then had their treatment taken away. So we're proceeding on neowithdrawal.com. We're training 1,000 nurses in the Pacific Northwest, and we're marketing and getting some traction on that. So we'd love anybody's input from hospitals or nurses that are trying to impact moms and infants and keep the dyad together. We have a new grant, and there is a catch to it, but we generally approach technology to support clinicians and people with addictions. So we have a phase 2 grant from the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism to do a 140-person clinical trial to combine contingency management to reduce alcohol use. And we are using, we're developing a platform that uses mood data, primarily initially from ecological momentary assessments and eventually from other data sources, to develop a machine learning predictive model about who is going to be successful or not successful in achieving their objectives for alcohol use reduction. So the good part about it is that we're looking for resources, particularly technical, full stack developers and system test engineers. And then secondly, what we have long-term plans to both develop these individual products, but develop a platform for future research that could be used for all kinds of addictions and mental health applications. So you've known me from the mothers and infants. I wasn't sure this grant was going to come through. It's significant. Like I say, it's a 2-year project to do a clinical trial. And we're very excited to kick this off this month. And we're still in the organization phase. I don't know if you people know how government grants work, but they they delay and delay and delay. When you get the grant, then you're late.
That's beautiful. Congratulations on the grant, and thank you for standing for some of the most vulnerable people. You know, mothers and children like that. That's beautiful that you continue to do that work. You're in the you're on the community as well, right? So you if anyone wants to follow up with you, they'll be able to track you down on the community. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I haven't been on there recently because I'm doing all kinds of paperwork and
Yeah, no worries. The main thing about it is, and just for everyone to know, like a lot of times if you're on there and then what, at least the way I have my membership set up is I have my membership set up so that I can just get the emails. A lot of times, you know, especially when I'm traveling, I don't have the time to go into the application. You can get the application on your phone. You can actually, or you can just have it set up so that if someone does a shout out at you, that it comes to you for the channel that you're on, stuff like that. Hey, Kim, let me ask you one more question before we go to the next person. You mentioned that you need full stack developers. What stack? What set of backgrounds are you looking for?
Well, our legacy stack is basically a traditional LAMP stack, Linux, MySQL, but we for data analysis, we'd like to move to PostgreSQL, and we're open to other frameworks. Everybody should scale, but just so people know is that, we have 2 years to do 140 users. So I want to make sure it works quickly.
Yeah.
And if we need, if we need to make plans to scale for, 5,000 users, we can get there.
Perfect. Well, that's beautiful. Okay. Well, thank you for the work you're doing. We'll go to the next person and let us know what you need. Thank you, Kim. Greg Stevens, you've got your digital hand raised. Please tell us. Great to have you back on. Not only as a speaker, your session a few weeks ago was one of my favorite because I'm like, I don't know if anyone else is getting value out of this, but I certainly am. And then I called him afterwards, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew this, but I called him afterwards and Greg gave me all this other coaching about, okay, Kevin, do this, do this, do this. So Greg, tell us what are you up to and what kind of requests do you have for the community?
Yeah, my business is we develop people in their communication and relationship skills. I have a company called Alignment Resources. You can go to our website, alignment-resources.com, see all the different things we do. But what I'm really excited about I'm calling it a master team. Everyone knows what a mastermind is. Everyone knows what a master class is. They know what individual and group coaching is. This master team is all of that combined. It's not your typical mastermind or just master class. And it's to help people understand how to communicate in a 3-month time frame. Many times people take so much longer to learn these skills. We condense it in about a 3-month time frame, and we do it in groups of leaders. And it's a group effort. But it's also homework. It's challenging. But what we tell people is that after that 3 months, you're going to know how to have these difficult conversations for the rest of your life. And I put all my information in the chat box, but I'm passionate about it. We're looking at filling two. One is a communication mastermind. It's more self-paced. And then there's a master team, and then a advanced communication that's more hands-on training once a week for 2 hours, and follow up with that. So that's what we're doing. It starts in September, and it runs for 3 months.
Beautiful. Well, we'll make sure that that gets transferred over to the post as well. And yeah, thanks for your coaching. I know that we got quite a number of people that benefit out of the program. If you didn't see Greg's program, one of the things you can do is you can go to the community site and look at the video. It's also posted on our YouTube channel for the Venture Outfitter. And, if you want to kind of get a sense of his background, who he is, things like that, a great next step, even before you talk to him and follow up with him, is to kind of do that. So, Greg, any other requests, any other shout outs you'd like to do before we go to our next?
Well, I just thank everyone for being new in the community, and Kevin, love you, and just hang in there with all the challenges you've had recently.
Yeah.
The support you can get from everyone. Just lean on your people.
It's been amazing because I didn't realize what the support system was until, excuse the expression, but it's the appropriate expression. And I am from Texas. Shit hit fan, shit hit fan again, and even more shit hit more fan. I'm like, okay, okay. So yeah, Greg, thank you for being part of my support team. And reminder to everyone out there, because I said this last time, make sure you're building your support team. So thank you for being part of that for me, Greg. It's been extremely helpful through these really rough times. So
Love you,
thank
brother.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, so Daniel, you got your hands raised. Tell us about it, Daniel. How are you? And give us your elevator pitch and requests for the community.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. I'm happy also to be part of this community. So basically, I own and operate a direct company called Quant Technology. We're a Mexican software firm. We're established here in the Yucatan, in Merida, Mexico. And we're looking forward, hopefully soon, to be opening some small office in Austin. I like Austin a lot, by the way. Our customers are all US customers. We're working with top companies in Silicon Valley, working for a cloud software group there, which is AKA TIPCO. We're working for Benefy, which is another security company that has presence in Bay Area and also in Salt Lake, Canadian company, and many other customers over the years. We've been in business for about 10 years. We're about 70 employees firm, about 50 engineers within those. And we're actually looking for additional business right now. We're actively looking. So I'll take Kim's word. Hopefully we can help him with the resources he needs. And anybody else that needs developers, there's actually 4 really good developers about to come off assignment. So I'm looking where to place them. They've been with me for a while, and they're really good. And we also have a really streamlined recruiting system. So, we can get your resources anywhere in Mexico and decent rates. And I myself am a long-time developer. I have over 20 years of experience myself. I was in the US for a number of years in Siemens, IBM, Progress, and TIPCO. So I kind of know what's to be on the other side. That's how I was able to come up and do this business. So anyways, that it is. I'll post my information I'm in the community as well. I'll post my information in the chat. Anybody, we're really looking for business right now. So I appreciate that.
That sounds great. Thank you for being here. Yeah, most people don't know, unless you really know something about Mexico. Mexico actually has, so I've had teams of up to 30 engineers in Mexico at a time. And the Mexico, I think it's like 160,000 engineers per year graduate from Mexican engineering universities. It's and they're solid engineers. If you're looking at, if you can offshore, if you're thinking about offshoring at all, nearshoring is one of the best answers to do. And I've had a lot of good success with Mexican. I've outsourced to Russia, to Ukraine, to Chile, to Colombia, to all over Latin America, into Asia as well. But Mexico makes it easy. So thank you for joining us, Daniel.
Thank you, Kevin.
Cool. So next is our community poet laureate. How do you say that? Laureate? I can't say it. Laureate. Sorry. As well as our branding expert, Christia. How are you?
I'm good.
Tell us. What are you going to tell us? I always love
well,
from you.
well, I've I think keeping with the theme. Just thinking about what you have been talking about with regard to the struggles of late and why you started Tech Ranch. I selected a poem to speak to that specifically. And this is a new one that I actually got a chance to debut at a reading at the Umlauf Sculpture Garden a couple weeks ago. So it doesn't have a title yet. You can come up with one. So it's 150 of 365. The thing about dreams is that they give rise to expectations. You can find yourself squinting into the sun from the peak of one bright hill where it looks as if all the land below stands rich and fertile. You know it's easy to miss how many stones lie beneath the surface. Hard to tell the tilth of soil at a distance. You don't need to be convinced. It's wiser to stand still at the edge of potential. At this age, make a memory of the horizon before you turn back the way you came, retrace your path. That's enough for some, but from where I stand, I can clearly see you didn't come for the view.
Beautiful. The edge of potential.
So yeah, I think talking about where we, that journey that you've been on, Kevin, of saying, why did I leave this thing that I knew was, I could have had the security you've talked about and all the other things that might have come with that. And you wouldn't have had this experience. You wouldn't be building this community right now. So I think that's that idea that we come in part for the process.
It's an interesting thing because a lot of times if you ever watch, for all of us that watch The Matrix, right, Morpheus offers Neo the blue pill and the red pill. And if you take the blue pill, you wake up the next day, your life hasn't changed. You're kind of like, yeah, I kind of like whatever happened. But if you take the red pill, you actually, you got to follow it until, and what the hell? Sometimes I'm like, I kind of miss the blue pill. The blue pill for me was building trading systems for Fidelity Investments and building the e-commerce engine behind Dell as an outsider, right? I was the outsider that would be brought in to do that sort of stuff. But there is something more valuable for those of us, especially as we enter into these changing times in the red pill. So thank you for being a leader in that, Christia, both with your branding voice as well as your poet voice. I always appreciate that. That keeps me inspired along the way. So, and if you don't believe me, what you should do is you should follow her on Facebook because she posts about this sort of stuff all the time. And, it's really, really simple. It's really simple about how that sort of stuff is the stuff that I think the most important business books that I've ever read have been poetry books, including both of Christia's 2 books in poetry. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, well, cool. Well, we'll keep on bouncing around. Roberto, you posted into join us. Thanks for raising your digital hand. You're from Austin, but you're in Brazil right now. You mentioned. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, we met a long time ago. I used to live in Austin. My wife is from Austin, and thanks for inviting me again to this. I think after COVID, we all got displaced from Austin, moved to New York, and now I'm in Brazil. But I still have my company in Austin, Prime Digital, which I founded when I was living in Austin with the intent of helping startups, or being part of some acceleration program or just help the ecosystem, right? Basically, LLC that will help the ecosystem. Love to go back to Austin, but really thank you for inviting me back here. I miss you. I miss coming to your events, and hopefully I'll move back to Austin one day. But I'll be brief. I'll just want to, give a shout out to the 4th of July to everybody. I know it's we all think about big vacations,
which city in Brazil are you on? And tell us more about your company really quick too. Like which city are you in?
Yeah, I'm currently in Rio de Janeiro, and I actually, but I move a lot from Rio to São Paulo and back to New York. Just because of like clients and, most people do not know that I'm in Brazil because my cell phone is still 512. All my company is still in Austin. Everything is still in the United States. And I grew up in the United States since I was little, so more American than Brazilian. But I just felt like, as a good ecosystem here, the beaches are nice and, it just can do everything. But I do miss Austin. I miss the barking pool.
There is something about spending time in other countries and deepening our perspective, finding different parts of ourselves that you can only find in a different country. I had that happen to me in Mexico and in Chile. So,
well, I come from a background. You thought about like where your parents come from. Like my dad came from India. He actually came in a boat to New York, and then became a quantum physicist for Stanford University. Worked for Princeton, and ended up marrying my mother, who's Portuguese, immigrant in Brazil. And I was born in Rio, but grew up in Ohio. So my family is very like diverse, You know, I have people from Switzerland. My brother lives in Switzerland. My sister in Germany. So the digital nomad has been, you know, in my family since I was little, since back in the, let's say, the 80s, the 90s.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah.
Any requests you have for the community? Like any requests you'd like to just do a shout out for as well?
Yeah, I love what Chris said. I think it was a great poem. You know, I am involved in SaaS, software as a service, anything related with ad tech, martech. You know, currently I'm actually helping a Ukraine company that does native platform to speed up and simplify software development based on AI. Nothing new. There's a lot of companies out there. I just felt like I decided to advise them because there's all that freedom that you talked about. You know, the guy has a PhD on AI. He started the company in 2020, has 2 years of development, and suddenly the war came and they all like, oh my God, we're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it. I'm like, no, hold on, man. Let me help you out. You know, if you guys want to check it out, the name of the company is Ubos, UBOS. And I just decided to start advising them, and we're going to be looking for, you know, UX, UI, designers, software developers, or even, you know, people who want to help get this out as a distribution. And they just really got displaced by the entire war. So that's why one of the reasons why I decided to advise them and trying to connect them to the ecosystem.
You know,
I think they need to survive.
That's a good reminder. It's every few weeks we have something special we do for Ukraine, and I think it's time for us to. There's a number of Ukrainians that we met during South by Southwest this year, as well as a number of Ukrainians that are involved in the community. I think I'd like to go ahead and I'm going to use this as an excuse to ask Jello to set up a Ukraine support channel, and you know. Jello, make sure you invite Roberto into it, because I think we have enough, you know, critical mass that we should go ahead and dedicate a channel there. One of our members that's based out of Prague, who's a lot of times will join, you know, join this program, is leading initiatives in Ukraine right now called Invest in the Brave, and he's now done 2 major events there. There's going to be another one of those events in September, and I'm considering, I haven't made a commitment to it yet, but I'm considering being there in first person in Kyiv during that time. But I think we have enough activity that's happening around Ukraine that we should have a separate channel for that. And so, Roberto, I'm going to use you as an excuse. If you'll make sure that me and Jello have access to your email address, we'll make sure that you're in that part of the community, and we'll do that. And then just a few weeks out, we'll have another Ukraine support activity. I want to make sure that we invite more of the Ukrainians that are actually displaced, as well as ones that are still on the ground. We've heard from a number of them. In fact, I have one of the companies I outsource to, actually 2 of them have been on our programs just saying about conditions there. And I think that that's an important thing to do. So thank you for sharing about that.
No problem. I just I don't want to let them, you know, they have such a great product that I don't want them to just let that go.
Yeah, Ukrainians by and large are absolutely brilliant. So it's a sad thing that the war was begun. My hope is that it comes to a speedy finish in as peaceful way as possible. So,
and then if anyone wants to come to Brazil, hit me up. I'll be here until Christmas.
That's beautiful. I need to go. I've never been, and my dad was in the Peace Corps in Brazil before I was born. So yeah, at some point, that's something that I need to do.
Come before Thanksgiving.
That's perfect.
Well, I have to go back.
Well, I tell you what, thank you, Roberto. What we're going to do is, I noticed that a couple of you already have been saying goodbye and waving before it's right at 12 noon here in Austin, and we try to keep these to an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll get my last couple of slides, bring it up. Like I mentioned earlier, I always love when we do the community events, because you know, it's all about what you guys are up to, and how you're helping the world and changing the world for the better and stuff like that. Thank you for the wide grouping of what you're up to. If you have other stuff to say it online. do it immediately. Don't wait. If you need anything, you can always use the chat function on the website as well to do shout outs. There's been last minute, late night shout outs where it's like, hey, I need support, blah, 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 whatever it might be. There's a chat function on there as well for being able to do that. If you're not in the community, you'd like to be involved in lots of different ways, you can go to techranch.com/connect. There's a newsletter to sign up. There's a place to say, hey, I'd like to apply to be a mentor. There are other places if you have products and stuff like that that you'd like to get involved. We do look for sponsors of the network, like we heard from Chihuahua Global earlier today. We've heard from other sponsors over the years of this program. Let us know. You can all do that at techranch.com/connect. And then just wrapping up kind of quick, it's really exciting to see what you guys are up to, and always, you know, makes this whole process worthwhile. Definitely be vocal about things that you need. And if you're looking at getting involved in any things, if you want to talk to me about the breakthrough process, if you want to just get involved, if you have something to add to the community, you want to be one of the speakers on the program and stuff like that, just shout it out, because we'd like to get you increasingly more involved. The whole value of what's happening is not the TechRanch organization, it's the community that we are together. And with that, I'll say it's always my honor to be a part of a group of entrepreneurs that are driven by vision and values. Let's go change the world for the better together. Y'all take good care. Take care.